Group 3, please proceed to the grid for your race. Group 3, please proceed to the grid for your race. Group 3, please make your way to the grid for the race. Group 3, please make your way to the grid for the race.
Hey, Chuck, do you think I should open up the bottom of the ice chest and let it drain? Right where it sits? There's still ice in it. I just want to drain the water that came around or whatever. We need more. I thought watermelons are okay. They're berries. They're berries. I thought you had it wrapped around the stick. That's not fun. So everything's good with the toe? Okay. Good. Yeah. Oh no!
Race Group 3, your 5-minute board is out. Race Group 3, your 5-minute board is out. Please proceed to the grid for your race. Again, your 5-minute board is out.
Oh, okay.
Welcome, race fans, to our first broadcast race of the day here from Buttonwillow Raceway Park. It's the Cal Club region of the SCCA's divisional races here at Buttonwillow Raceway Park on Sunday, the 5th of June, 2022. Brian Belansky here with Tristan Parker. A little bit different today than yesterday. We're going to have the racing in reverse order. So yesterday, our Spec Miata and all the small sedans was our first group. Today, it's going to be the Spec Racer Fords and all of our winged and, well, actually, pretty much all of our Formula cars. So anyway, I'm Brian Belansky. Tristan's here with me today. Welcome. We got to do 3 more races today and have some fun with it, right?
Yeah. I'm excited to see Group 3 kicking it off here because this was a good race yesterday. There's some good competitions to watch out for. There's Stephen Grafton versus the Pattersons, Andy Patterson and Stuart Patterson. That's something you want to keep your eye on there up in the Formula cars. And then down in the Spec Racer Fords, I mean, we had a good little battle developing between Trevor Acker and Brian Schubert yesterday until Trevor Acker, I think, span out and continued. So Brian Schubert took the win, but presumably Trevor Acker, who actually qualified in pole position for that group, is eager to place himself first today on the go-around.
Definitely. So 3 races today, 25 minutes each. Like I said, we're going to start off with that Spec Racer Ford group. Early racing today at Buttonwillow because of the temperature, and we try to get out of here as early as possible on these June race weekends, and it's good to do that right now. We're looking at the schedule here, as you can see it on our screen. We're getting ready to release the cars for their first race of the day. Once they do start their pace lap, we'll give you a rundown of what's going on with the starting order here. Taking a look at our temperature today, 74 degrees, which is downright chilly here for June. Refreshing it to see. It might be a little warmer than 74 degrees right now. We'll get this thing up here in just a second. Supposed to get up to 91 degrees today, which is why we started so early. And 79 degrees now, but still very comfortable for Buttonwillow standards as we get ready to go here. So our pace car has begun. For that, we will give the microphone over to Tristan, and he will give us our starting order.
All right, well, let's start from the back here. In 12th place, Michael Moshe from Los Angeles, California. In front of him, Don Paula from Bakersfield, California, local. Jay Rosenthal, and head of them, Woodland Hills, California. Mark Ballingy from Shafter, California. Brian Schubert from Huntington Beach, California. Trevor Acker from Santa Clarita, California. Edward Erlinson from Burbank, California. Terrence Carreher from Arroyo Grande, California. Andy Patterson from Fallbrook, California. Stephen Grafton from Jamal, California. And in second place from Fallbrook, California, Stuart Patterson. And starting it all off, another Fallbrook native, Tom Van Wee out there in the yellow number 6 Mazda Formula.
All right, for those of you watching our stream today, hopefully we've gotten some of the technical gremlins out that we had yesterday. Again, we're doing a couple of test race weekends before we really get ready with our stream to launch in January. So we've got our stuff set up today. We'll see how it works. If you're looking at the stream, you will see that we have our on the left side of the screen. Once we go green, it will turn green, and that will be your indication what the flag condition is. And we have 2 cameras working today. The first one is in our sweeper section. That's the one you're looking at right now. And we'll see the cars come through there on the pace lap here in just a minute. And then from there, we will go to our main straight camera for the start of the race. So you can see right now our pace car is coming through there. The lights are out on the pace car, which means that when the pace car gets to the pits, it will go in, and we will see if we end up with a green flag here. First race of 3 this weekend. The next race is our big bore class. Not too many cars out here for us this weekend with that class, but it'll be fun to watch them nonetheless. And we're also going to talk about the new racetrack at Buttonwillow during that race as well. So, all right, we are just waiting now for the pace car to hit pit lane And for our first group in a split start here to hit the main straightaway, Chuck Phillips is our starter for this race. He will decide whether or not they're formed up nicely, and that will be the determining factor as to whether or not we get ourselves our first green flag of the day. There we go. We're on the main straight now, and our green flag is out.
Well, it's a little bit of tight racing there at the back of the pack, actually, as they come up into the sunrise turn. Those formula calls are quite close. A little bit of shuffling there. I don't think too much really happened. We'll get a good confirmation, of course, when they come around for their first lap. Now let's take a look here, because the spec racers should be coming across the line soon.
Yep, here comes our second group of spec racers. Green flag is out for this group as well as we come by start line here. And that race is now underway, heading down towards our first corner for the first time. Of course, we're looking to see if for that magical Buttonwillow puff of dust, if we don't get that, that's how we know that things have gone well in that first turn.
Well, they were side by side there coming across the finish line or the start line. Close and tight going into sunrise as well. Right in the lead, it was Trevor Acker and Brian Schubert, sort of neck and neck, jostling for position going into sunrise. It does look, I think, like Trevor Acker got the better of it, but Brian Schubert trying to go for a pass now, actually, as they come through the cotton corners right there, trying to get around, and he will actually nearly get around as they head up onto the grapevine, and sure enough, he does. So the number 9 car taking the lead off of 61 there at the start, but, you know, we were talking about this yesterday, Brian, how in these spec racers it's so important for the kind of drag and the drift, and how sometimes being in second place is almost a preferable position. I say that, though, it's clearly not a preferable position for Trevor Acker, because he's pushing now on the dog leg to try and get inside Brian Schubert on Riverside, and he might just have done it as well, and he does. He retakes the lead.
There you go. And we'll get to see those cars come into our view here on the stream. We just saw the first pack go through, pretty much single file at this point in time. They'll be hitting to the main straight in just a second. Here comes our Spec Racer Ford pack through us right there on the camera. As that happens, our leaders are now coming across the start line for the first time. There's the first pack, and it does look like it's hard for me to see the scoring here. Who's our scorer? Who's in first? Is it Tom Van Wee again?
Yes.
All right.
Perhaps not surprising there. Tom Van Wee putting out a really good lap, actually, 1 minute 50. And then Stuart Patterson, Andy Patterson, and Stephen Grafton, which was actually the lineup yesterday as well. And then we saw Stephen Grafton kind of go to work on the Pattersons and push himself up into second place. Here come the Spec Racer Fords across the line. It is Trevor Acker still in the lead there over Brian Schubert. Not much of a gap between them, just about a second. And then Mark Ballingy, who, again, yesterday held out in that kind of third place slot in group, is back in that comfortable position. Just happy to run his race behind the young guns there, I think, at the front.
And that is the way it works a lot of times. You know, holding your position in the early part of the race is a good way to kind of preserve your tires and have the car ready to go when it gets time to make those decisions with 2 or 3 or even 1 lap to go. So our leaders now in our front pack, our wings and things, are going to be coming into our view. There is Tom Van Wee coming through first. It looks like Stuart Patterson remains to be our second place car. And it's as they come now through. This is the drag strip section of the track that we're seeing at the moment. And we'll be waiting for just a second. And our Spec Racer Ford crew should be coming through there as well. The groups are just far enough where if I wait for them to come into view on the drag strip, we miss them coming across the start-finish line. But that's okay. We're going to get it going here now.
Oh, it's Tom Van Wee blasting through across the finish line right there. The Pattersons putting in a good performance today, but it's already happened. It looks like Stephen Grafton has got the better of Andy Patterson and is now pushing up on Stewart. So, again, deja vu here, right? Because this is exactly what happened yesterday.
Yep.
Well, I might be getting my Pattersons confused exactly who was where.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting to see how they play these things out. The first place car in that Tom Van Wee car, that's a Formula Atlanta car. So no question why he's pulling away. Then the next the next four cars are all Formula Fords. So, that's why those four cars stay together, and they're working to do what they do there. Fun to watch that. So, pretty much how that class works when you've got this grouping together.
Yeah, that number 6 yellow is a beautiful car. We were actually talking about it earlier when we saw him pull up to the grid. A nice machine. Fun to just watch it run. It's so clean, too. Obviously, it's Tom Van Weed taking it around. You just expect, you expect the best there, and you're close to getting it. Taking a look there back at the Spec Racers, the Spec Racer Fords, we just saw them come across the line here a few seconds ago. They're now up through the grapevine, coming down into the dog leg, and it does look like Trevor Acker has put a little bit of distance between himself and Brian Schubert there. Mark Ballingy still holding on, so a little group of 3 there at the lead of the pack, and then bringing up the rear are the rest of them, having a nice, exciting Sunday drive there amongst themselves.
So here's a look at the track map here at Buttonwillow Raceway Park. We have several configurations and that we use out here. This weekend we're using the configuration 14 clockwise, and you can see what it looks like here. So the bottom right of your screen is the drag strip. That's where our one camera is. And, of course, the start-finish line is where the second one is. That's the middle of the straight that's at the lower part of the screen. So so that's the views you're getting today from our tracks, from our track cameras.
We just saw Tom Van Week come by. Actually set a really nice time right there, 1:47.278. So sparkling stuff, 3 seconds ahead of the rest of that particular group. Worth pointing out there, by the way, that Stephen Grafton was right on the tail of Stuart Patterson as they came around last time. We might get a look at them going through the dog leg, actually. See how that fight is going, and sure enough, he's right nipping at the heels there of Stuart Patterson, not giving a lot of room to run with. And as they come down the drag strip, Brian, where you've got your camera, we might actually get to see a good run from the two of them right there. Though Sunrise does appear to be sort of the favored turn for passing this weekend, as is so often the case with those first turns.
Definitely, and here comes Tom Van Wee through that drag strip area. He's opened up now what looks like about a 20-second gap between him and the second place car. But that fight for the front of the Formula Ford grid is still pretty strong. Stephen Grafton right on the tailpipe of Stuart Patterson as they come through that section. And there is Van Wee across the start-finish line.
He's speeding up every time he comes around. That was 146.5 right there, so progressively faster. And here comes that fight again. Stephen Grafton still on the hunt right there. Is this going to be the turn where he tries to do it coming down through Sunrise? No, not quite. He'll bide his time. That's kind of what we saw him do yesterday. But if you're in Stuart Patterson's position right now, you've definitely got a fight on your hands. Waiting for the Spec Racer Fords to come across the line here as well. Trevor Acker does appear to be holding that lead position so far, though. Yesterday, we saw that actually for a couple of laps where Trevor Acker was in the lead, and an unfortunate spin out on one of the turns allowed Brian Schubert to get around and get the better of him for most of the race. So Trevor Acker trying to keep that position and keep it clean right there as they come sailing by us through into Sunrise. Of course, credit to Mark Ballingy, still hanging on there as well. And we just saw coming across the line, Jay Rosenthal, and it'll be Michael Moshe, and then Don Paula, the Bakersfield local, to round it out.
Yeah, and Trevor Acker is doing exactly what he wants to be doing, and that the good news for him is that he's able to pull out a bit of a lead here. The bad news for Brian Schubert is if that lead gets stretched out to another second, maybe second and a half, that's pretty much where the draft ends, and then it's sayonara, goodbye, we'll see you next week. That's of course if there's no problems. So that's always something you got to think about. But, that lead is growing enough that it looks like it could be checkout time.
Yeah, Trevor Acker really does appear to be putting on the speed right there. We saw him coming through just now down towards Riverside and not really slowing down there at all. So we'll keep an eye on it, but it does look like things are starting to open up. Actually, in the back, a little bit of a duel opening up there between Don Paul and Michael Moshe, funny enough. And meanwhile, we should say, somewhere in the kind of black hole where we lost sight of it right there, Stephen Grafton did actually manage to make his pass, so he will be ahead of Stuart Patterson. So for the second day in a row, Stephen Grafton battles himself up from 4th overall to 2nd overall at the expense of the Patterson family.
So the two groups are just far enough apart where it's hard to show both groups in earnest here on our live stream, because when you're trying to see one group come across on one camera, the other group's on the other camera. So it's just kind of the oddness of the way the split start worked today. So we're catching the Spec Racer Fords now as they come through, and it does look like that gap has opened up a little bit more for the 61 car. And they better get their stuff together, that 2nd and 3rd place car. Now, the one thing that can happen in this group is if the 2nd and 3rd place cars start working together, they'll be able to catch him. But that requires a little bit of thought process to make that happen, and we'll see if those guys can kind of clear out the red mist and work together to get back to the front.
We will see a little bit of a tingle here across the line, by the way, from that Spec Racer Ford group. Trevor Acker actually hit dirt, got back on. No significant, I think, downturn really in the time, but it is something to keep in mind. That was, I think, up by Sunset, though I can't confirm exactly which turn it was. Interesting to note there as well, Mark Ballingy is starting to close that gap with Brian Schubert ever so slowly inching his way towards that 2nd place car. So working together, I don't know that's necessarily in the agenda for today, Brian, but certainly the logic is there.
Well, and he could be closing the gap, or Brian Schubert may be allowing the gap to close so that those two cars can draft up to catch the leader. That would be the smart thing to do, but as I can tell you from someone who's put on a helmet, we don't always do the smart thing. So it's tough to get in that mindset to let the guy behind you get closer so you can catch the guy in front of you, but that's what you need to do.
Worth pointing out, there might be a little bit of a civil war brewing among the Pattersons as well, because when we saw him coming across the start line just a second ago, Andy Patterson was getting up close behind Stewart right there, maybe looking to make an attempted pass. So we'll see if that sort of pans out as they keep going around. I don't know. I don't know if there's how that works, if there's a primacy within the family, if one can't pass the other, but something to keep a note of there for sure.
What is the Hatfields and the McCoys when they're both the Hatfields and the McCoys?
Yeah, it's like a little complicated.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And not to leave him out there, but still Don Paul and Michael Moshe, who kind of holding up the back end here of the grid in those Spec Racer Fords. They've got a little thing going on. Don Paul is closing up on Michael Moshe, who did pass him earlier in the race. So they are kind of chasing one another right now. It's an interesting little thing happening there in the tail gun Charlie position, but definitely worth keeping an eyeball on if you're watching out there.
Definitely, and if you're also keeping an eye on that Formula Ford race, it looks as though that the gap from Stephen Grafton is widening a bit, and it's to the point now where as long as Grafton doesn't make any mistakes, I think it's pretty much, or has a mechanical issue, that car should be able to stick out front there for the remainder of this race.
Right on. Well, we are halfway through. Shall we do a rundown of the grid as it stands right here, Brian? So, starting at the top, Tom Van Wee there in the lead. Right below him, the aforementioned Stephen Grafton, Stuart Patterson, Andy Patterson, Terrence Carraher, Edward Erlinson, Trevor Acker, Brian Schubert, this is in your Spec Racer Fords here, Mark Ballingy, Jay Rosenthal, Michael Moshe, and Don Paula. That's where the race stands at 7 laps completed and 14 minutes in.
That is your full field rundown brought to you by the Racing Wire Podcast Network. You can sponsor the full field rundown. That is something that's available to be done. If you have a business that would like to do that, you can give me an email at raceannouncerbrian@gmail.com. You can also sponsor cameras on our broadcast. When we get camera sponsors, we get more cameras. So we'd love to have you do that as well.
It's race announcer Brian with an I.
Yes, the proper way.
The proper way.
The proper way, exactly.
Oh no, I'm not gonna pick sides in that battle. I'll tell you that right now.
As I tell Brian Schubert, who puts his name out the improper way, if he'd be faster if he spelled it with an I.
Yeah. It's. I'm sure we'll submit that through to the track analysis down there. Speaking of Brian Schubert, actually, that little group of three remaining relatively equidistant from one another at the top of the spec racers right there. Trevor Acker, it looks like Brian Schubert has climbed up a little bit on Trevor Acker. Mark Ballingy, though, still holding on to the two of them.
Just saw a puff of dust on the exit of Phil Hill. So I'm sure we'll get some word from the experts there. And another puff of dust, as you can see out there. So I'm not quite sure if maybe there's a bit of debris on the track, maybe a little oil that's causing some folks to put a wheel off there. But 2 puffs of dust on this lap, and I'm sure we'll get some word here in just a minute.
It sounds like listening to the network here. It does look like Andy Patterson had a little spin right there, but got back on the track. What that does mean, though, is it's allowed Terrence Carreher to come up behind and take that 4th place slot overall. So now looking at Stuart Patterson, Carreher in the middle, and then Andy Patterson just behind.
We call that a moment in the business. He had a moment.
Okay, he had a moment. A very dusty moment.
There you go. There you go.
It's easy for those of you who aren't at the track or aren't out there today to forget how dusty it is actually out there. But we went out yesterday, Brian, to collect your cameras, and I think I was unaware of just how dusty it is. So it's no wonder when somebody goes off, they hit dust. Looks like Tom Van Wee here just comes roaring across the line. His times have slowed down a little bit. His best time overall remains that 146.5. He is now in the process of kind of lapping the spec racer cars one by one, picking his way across the start line there and just making his way through the grid. So putting in a very fine performance today there in the FA class.
Well, and he was given the car in front of him, given the blue flag across the start-finish line. That blue flag, of course, indicating that there might be a faster car coming up and requesting the driver to at least pay attention to their mirrors. They don't have to do anything with the blue flag, but it is kind of a recommendation or an observation that the flaggers have made to be able to give them some information, and then they can do it with which they want.
Well, it sounds like Edward Erlinson had a bit of a moment at turn 4 as well, spun, but did continue on his way. So as the race continues, things getting a little bit sloppier out there, Brian. 17 minutes in, 9 laps completed. And these are, you were saying earlier, you got to keep it clean, right? Especially we look down on that spec racer trio there at the top who are so close together, and the pressure on the 3 of them to really keep it tight, because as we see them come past the finish line here, it does look like Brian Schubert has made gains on the back of Trevor Acker, and that's actually getting smaller, that gap between the 2 of them, as they go out through Sunrise before we lose them as they head down towards the off-ramp, or the A section, I think it is, this weekend. So you see them go there, and we might pick them back up again as they come up the I-5. Not the literal I-5. that would be a bit different.
So, as is the case in a lot of racetracks, all the different sections of this track have names as well as turn station numbers. And because the track is run both in a clockwise and counterclockwise configuration, in order to keep things a little bit, we've got a car off, or a big off, and that actually was Brian Schubert, went way off onto the dust here coming out of the grapevine, and we don't have to worry about mosquitoes in that area right now. Lots and lots of dust. I don't know how much of it is going to cause him to fall back from Trevor Acker, but that's great news if you're Trevor Acker looking in your rearview mirror and seeing a big puff of dust behind you. That usually means a lot more room between you and the guy behind you. But as I was saying, because the track is run counterclockwise and clockwise, a lot of times we use the names of the corners and the sections rather than the numbers, because it's just too darn confusing to do it any other way.
Well, if I had to guess what was going on right there, Brian Schubert was really putting on the speed there coming up to the cotton corners and into that grapevine. So with that change of elevation and coming straight down, whipping off that turn into club corner and the dog leg, probably picked up just a little too much speed right there and just wasn't able to keep it under control. So like you said, good news for Trevor Acker if you're sitting in that lead spot. I think a very young driver, a very talented driver, Trevor Acker. Actually, both Brian Schubert and Trevor Acker quite young, all things considered. But now Brian Schubert's in a bit of a difficult spot because he's got Mark Ballingy, who's been running that very clean, very steady race this entire time, slowly closing in behind him here. They come across the finish line and go down into Sunrise, and Mark Ballingy ever so slowly now starting to creep up on Brian Schubert after that little bit of off-roading.
Well, and as I often like to say, that age and experience often is better than youth and trepidation. So,
as the younger person in the booth, I don't feel comfortable commenting one way or the other.
Shot fired.
I'll respect my elders on that one, I think.
That hurt.
Oh, no. It does look like Trevor Acker has opened up that lead quite comfortably at the moment. So, unfortunately, given the time that we have left in the race here, I'm not sure that we'll see a change in lead position here amongst those Spec Racer Fords. Meanwhile, Stephen Grafton has opened up a bigger gap between him and his competitors right there, not looking too fussed at all. 1 minute, maybe about 2 seconds or 1 second between the two of them. It looks more towards the 2 side. Andy Patterson not yet able to catch up with Terrence Karaher after his own little moment right there. So they will continue a pace here. We actually see Terrence coming across the line right now and Andy Patterson following up behind him.
It did look like when Brian Schubert came through the drag strip area that Mark Ballingy had closed in really closely there. So that is, probably we're running out of time for that to be a worthwhile proposition. But those two cars can work together and have some success. Here they come towards start-finish line. I think Trevor Acker right now just needs to do his thing, and he can take this one home.
Certainly does look that way as they come by here, and it doesn't look like Mark Ballingy is trying now. Is now on this last lap at least. It didn't look like Mark Ballingy was trying to particularly hard to get around the outside there of Brian Schubert. As you see coming through right there, Tom Van Wee blazing a trail to glory, slowly creeping up actually on that group of three at the top of the Spec Racer 4. Just hearing that the next round go around the lap, that will be the 1 lap to go mark there. So I don't know if Tom Van Wee will actually catch up, but it is worth pointing out that he did pass his record. Now he set another one here. His best lap now 1 minute 46.127.
I was just going to say before you said it that I saw the starter pick up the white flag, which is going to be displayed here very shortly. And because that Formula Atlanta car is so fast, once that flag comes out, we will be about 1 minute and 40 seconds away from the end of this race.
Yeah, as we said before, though, it is a pleasure to watch that Formula Atlantic car at work. A magnificent beast of a vehicle out there at the moment. Taking a look at the back of the Spec Racer Ford pack, kind of lost them right there as they came around, but it does look like they are sort of getting past. But Michael Moshe, we had talked about Don Paula and Michael Moshe a little bit. It does look like Michael Moshe has opened up the gap between the two of them, so that duel I think has successfully been put to rest right there. So really, seems like the grid is semi-settled here at the moment. One thing to keep an eye on, though, is Mark Ballingy still kind of nipping at the heels of Brian Schubert. Could potentially make a move if he tried to push, but there comes the white flag right there, so it will be our last lap here as that Formula Atlantic comes across again.
And you will notice if you're watching the stream that the left side of your screen has turned white. That's our indication to you that the white flag is out. And of course, if there were a full course yellow situation, that would turn yellow. And when the checker comes out, it may turn checker. You just have to wait and find out.
Stick around.
Stick
One
around.
lap.
There's a tease for you. If you're interested to see it might change colors, stick around to find out. Man, I am scraping the bottom of the barrel for the teases today.
I'm hooked. I want to see what happens.
But we're having fun, and that's
We're
all
having
that's
fun.
really terribly important here, right?
Checkered flag is in hand there up at the stand, and it's worth pointing out that Edward Erlinson is out of the race here, has gone behind the wall, so we won't be seeing any more of the number 8 in this race.
And Tom Van Wee just went through the drag strip area, I believe, so it'll be just a few seconds now, probably less than 30 before he ends up here on our front straight to take his second win of the weekend, if nothing happens with that car between here and there. And the checkered flag is waving. Your race winner for this race is going to be Tom Van Wee.
Tom Van Wee indeed crossing the line right there. Nearly caught up to the lead group of the Spec Racer Fords there before the end. Didn't quite make it. Was just on the tail end of Mark Ballingy there as they came across the line. It does look like that lineup there in the Spec Racer Fords is relatively set here as well. So we'll see as they finish up this last lap. Checkered flag obviously being waved here. And one by one, this cars will come in and we'll go ahead and give you a full rundown when we have it, just see if anything else interesting happens. Pointing out Stephen Grafton just came across the line there, holding second place overall, and, well, first place in his group of the Formula Fords.
And it'll be very interesting to see. I'm hoping that that the last second and third place car in Spec Racer Ford had radios in those cars, because the checkered flag came out so close to them because Tom Van Wee was right behind him. I'm hoping they didn't mistakenly think that the race was over, because I believe that Mark Ballingy has passed Brian Schubert. That's a pass for position, and I'm hoping Brian didn't think the race was over and lifted and let that happen. Hopefully the guys on the radio told him that. We're just going to have to wait and see here. I'm trying to see where they're coming through here. They should be coming through in just a second, or if I may have missed them on this camera. But it would be really unfortunate to lose second place because the checkered flag came out so close to you. That is one of those reasons where the radio is really a good idea to have. Here they come here, just a few seconds coming into our view. There's your race winner in Spec Racer 4. That's Trevor Acker. Now let's see who comes across first. No, it worked out just fine. All right.
I saw Mark Ballingy there waving at the stand as they went by. I don't know if they were waving about the checkered flag or what.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so it's time. We've got enough cars in. Let's do our full field finishing rundown here for Race Group 1.
Starting at the top, your overall race winner, Tom Van Wee, in first place right there with a excellent race in the Mazda Formula. Following him up will be Stephen Grafton in second, Stuart Patterson in third overall, then Terrence Carracher, then Andy Patterson, and Edward Erlinson. In your second split, the Spec Racer Fords, it is Trevor Acker taking first place today, Brian Schubert coming in second, Mark Ballingy coming in third, Jay Rosenthal, Michael Moshe, and last but certainly not least, Don Paula.
All right, that's going to do it for race 1 here in the books. Group 3, our first race of the day, wrapped up. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back in just a few seconds with our second race of the day. I'm Brian Belansky. He is Tristan Parker. This is the Racing Wire Podcast Network and the Racing Network on YouTube. welcome to the Racing Network's production and broadcast of Cal Club Region SCCA Divisional races from Buttonwillow Raceway Park on this Sunday, June 5th, 2022. I'm Brian Belansky, along with me this weekend, Tristan Parker. And we are doing our thing here, bringing you the SCCA races for the first time on our stream. And having a little better luck today with the stream. It seems to be working pretty well for us, and we appreciate your patience with us yesterday as we do our first test broadcasts here as we get ready to do this full-on starting next year. But hopefully you're enjoying what we've got for you today. And let's do our full field starting order. So before we do this, this is a race we've got this weekend with only 2 cars. So we're going to talk about a lot of things during this race session, but we give the drivers a chance to go out there regardless of how many cars are in the group. So let's talk about the 2 guys we've got.
For sure. Well, starting in second place, Robert Kelly in a 2014.
Oh, go ahead.
In a 2014 Chevy Camaro from Huntington Beach, California. And then starting it off, number 9, Bob Blizzard in the 2012 Chevy Bryans Racer from Poway, California. And that is it. That is your full field rundown.
All right, there we go. It's good to have a full field rundown here, even though we've only got 2 cars. And but that's the good part. I mean, we kind of joke about it sometimes, but you know, the folks get to come and do this, and we have a fun time with it, and they have a fun time, which is really the most important part of this, right?
It is indeed. It's an exciting Sunday drive out there on the track for these 2, and I'm curious to see if they can pass their times from yesterday when they were racing. Robert Kelly came in 3rd overall in that small group that we had yesterday. Bob Blizzard in that number 9 car was a commanding presence, and I will not forget, he got passed right at the start, actually, by another racer who's not competing right day, if I remember correctly. And on that dogleg on that first lap, man, Bob Blizzard put on the speed to catch up. There was no allowing him to not be first right there, if I dare to use a double negative. So I'm curious to see if he can put up some good times here. His best lap yesterday, if you're wondering, was 1 minute 48.55. So we'll see if he can pass that. His best time, I think, overall has been 1:45.985. Robert Kelly right there in the GT2 class, his best time, I believe, was 1:59.796. So we'll see if he can pass that as well.
All right, we should be seeing these 2 cars get onto the front straight here pretty quickly. The pace car is no longer on the racetrack. It's on pit lane, so the cars should be coming into our view here pretty quickly. There we go. And we have ourselves a green flag. 25 minutes of racing action here.
Well, I'll go past this down into Sunrise right there. And, I mean, realistically, ladies and gentlemen, you probably shouldn't expect much of a competition between the 2 of them. I just don't think that that GTX car is going to get too caught up by Robert Kelly and the G2 or GT2. It's more of a matter, I think, of seeing if they are sort of racing themselves or the ghost driver out there in terms of their times, which will be the interesting thing to see. They've got a lot of track to work with, obviously, Brian. So if they want to let it rip, they certainly can.
So I just got some information, thankfully. It's nice when people do this because it gives us something to talk about. The number 9 car, that's the Bob Blizzard car. That's a super late model stock car. It's got 2,850 pounds of muscle out there. It's got a 460 rear end. So it's made specifically, I believe, for road racing. But yeah, great little race car out there, and you know, we try to find a way to let anybody get out there if they got the proper car and the proper safety equipment. So they bring out the stock car, and we got a place for them.
Yeah, it's interesting too that Bob Blizzard is from that San Diego region, so he's come a bit of a ways here today to compete. So fun to see him out there again on this one.
And if you take a look here, you won't. I didn't get Bob on the camera when he came through, but I'd say it's probably about a 5-10 second lead already. Probably a 5-second lead between the first and second place car.
I wouldn't expect them, like I said, to be too close together, but still, interesting to watch. And I mean, these are, fun cars. They're the big, powerful engines. So, as you were just saying, I mean, giving us the specs right there, and there is that big, powerful engine. The number 9 car comes roaring across. And that was a 1 minute 49.653. So, not quite at the mark of the 148 from yesterday, but we'll see if we can get there. Now, coming across the line there as well is Robert Kelly. And we'll see what their time was in just a second as they came sailing around and head off towards sunrise.
So while we've got a couple of minutes, I want to let everybody know we had a great opportunity yesterday, and we're going to have a video on the channel here eventually. I didn't have time to get it together to show you during this broadcast, which I would have loved to do. But anyway, we'll get that up on the channel in the next week or so, hopefully. But we got a chance to do a tour yesterday of what will be a second racetrack out here at Buttonwillow. It's going to be a little over 2 miles, and it appears from the tour that we took it's going to be really, really fast. There's a banked corner section, which will be really, really quick, a lot of straightaways. A brand new facility. It'll have its own separate paddock area. There's a bunch of Tesla charging facilities over there, which will be a nice little addition to folks who want to come up there and watch the races with their electric cars. And it's going to have separate garages, so it's going to be pretty much an independent racetrack. The goal will be to be able to have independent racing going on at the exact same time. So that will be fun to watch as it happens. And we're hoping to get on that track sometime this year or next year. Everything is ready on the track side to lay asphalt. That's the next step. So the track has already been configured and graded. They've started building the control tower area, which is actually beautiful and very, very interesting. It's got a showroom in it. That's going to be used to display some classic cars and vintage cars, and it's going to be almost a museum-type setting, which is going to be really, really cool for folks to come and see some of these older race cars, and looking really forward to that. So it's on the, I guess it would be the west side of the current Buttonwillow track, and we'll be able to run completely independent races. And it's just really, I don't think you got a chance to go out there and do that.
I did not, no, but I heard about it. It was just the track was described as interesting.
Yes.
Me,
and it's got some tight, twisty bits and some really fast sections. So it will be definitely a driver's treat. And unlike the original Buttonwillow, there's a little bit extra elevation change built into this track.
I heard as well. There's some elevation changes in there as well.
We have Phil Hill here, but it's just one little rise and dip. But there's a pretty significant amount of elevation change in this new configuration, and that should bring its own set of challenges.
Well, just giving an update, 147 on that last lap for Bob Blizzard, so impressive right there. And then I'm assuming this is correct timing here, but Robert Kelly actually put in a 133.263 lap on his last time round, and that seems awful fast. So good work right there for Robert Kelly in that number 88 car. As we see Bob Blizzard come around again, but he won't quite match his last lap time just yet. But he has beaten his time from yesterday, though, on the lap previous. So good play from him right there.
Well, and the good news for the drivers in a situation like this, I mean, this is essentially a test day. And, while it's great to have, big fields to race with, every once in a while it's really cool to not have a big field so you can really go and do some work on either build on the car, or maybe you want to try a little bit of work on your driving style. And this is the time for that to happen. So that could be a part of why a little bit faster today than yesterday. You see Robert Kelly just drove past us here.
Well, it's pretty fun, I imagine, if you're out there in one of these two cars right now, with the open road ahead of you on a beautiful day here in Buttonwillow. Free to do what you like and power through.
Right after this race, we've got our final race of the day. That's going to be our Spec Miatas and IT cars, production cars, B-Spec, All of those cars will be our next race of the day as they start to head to the grid. So that would be, we did our racing in opposite order today. So yesterday we started with Group 1 and went to Group 3. Today we started with Group 3 and are going to Group 1. So it's Group 1 who's heading to the grid right now. And there's, like I said, Spec Miatas, our production cars, GT lights, B-Spec, touring cars, IT cars, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, that's a pretty big group, actually. 14 cars that were in qualifying, and we don't know if we'll get anybody tacked on at the end who didn't participate in qualifying, but it'll be exciting to see. The Spec Miata is obviously a very big, very exciting group. Usually some good competition in amongst them. There certainly was yesterday, so definitely stuff to watch out for. In fact, Evan Jacobs took that pole position here in qualifying over Giorgio Perangielli, which was a duel that we saw yesterday kind of among the Spec Miatas, so it'll be fun to watch that shake out again. As we did see, it looked like Bob Blizzard came blazing past the line here just a second ago, but again, slowing down just a little bit there, 149.081 a lap, so not back up to the best lap time that he had earlier.
Taking a look at our track map this weekend, this is a configuration that we're running. It's configuration 14 clockwise, and as you can see, it's not utilizing the bus stop and not utilizing the Star Mazda turn and not utilizing the A section, and that's how we're doing things this weekend. There are more than 20 configurations here at Buttonwillow, and each configuration can be run both clockwise and counterclockwise. So it's not an infinite number of racetracks, but you can come here a lot and not run the same track for a long, long time. So that's a lot of fun, and the drivers do enjoy that.
Just two quick things right here. Correction on the timing for Robert Kelly. His fastest lap was actually his last lap at 2 minutes .865. I think there was a little bit of an aberration right there with that 133 lap, which I was curious about. So he is in at 2 minutes right there. So good lap time from him, all things considered. Still pretty impressive and almost equal to the time he put up yesterday. And then I think, Brian, we are using the A section this weekend, aren't we? Over there at the tail end over by the off ramp. They have added that to the track.
Well, it does show that, but when I went and put out the cameras yesterday and today, I realized that what they gave us on the piece of paper might not be 100%.
Oh, no.
Accurate. So, yeah, so we're actually not using
Well, who can you trust these days, honestly?
Yeah, I don't know. So, or I could have just not seen it the right way, so maybe I am wrong. But hey, what the heck? We're having fun, aren't we?
There's a turn down there.
Yeah,
that we can confirm to you that there's a turn.
And it's a right-hander.
And it's a right-hander. Yeah.
Yep.
It's over there somewhere.
And after the turn, there's a straightaway.
There is a straightaway, yeah. we can confirm that there's a turn, there's a straightaway. We just can't see it.
That's right.
But thanks to the lesson of object permanence, we know that it's hiding just behind some trees over there.
Well,
so.
and we could see it if we get another camera sponsor.
You're right,
See
we
how
could.
That perfect segue.
That was a good one,
Thank you.
actually.
Thank you. So our next camera sponsor is going to give us a camera out there in that off-ramp A section area. And it'll be really nice because from the announce booth, that's one of the spots where we can't see. So the reason we're getting the camera that I'm about to pop up right now, or the one that we were just looking at, let me go back to it. The reason that camera's there is because I can't see that section from the announce booth. And we're going to put a second camera out in the other portion. And then, of course, we'll have more down the road as well. So looking forward to adding those all to the stream. If you'd like to be a camera sponsor, you can send me an email, raceannouncerbrian@gmail.com. Brian spelled with an I, and that's how we're going to expand this broadcast and live stream to really make it something that people can enjoy.
Yeah, it'd be great to have another camera out there to give us that viewpoint so we can watch. I mean, so much action happens down, especially around the sunrise turn, which is kind of at the extreme peripheral of our vision up here in the booth. As we see the number 9 car come sailing by again. Both the racers have slowed down just a little bit here as they've kind of gotten into the comfort of their laps. That was a 152.367 there from Bob Blizzard, so about 5 seconds slower than his best lap so far on the day. Robert Kelly put up a 204.417, so a little bit slower there as well.
Race Group 1 to the grid. Race Group 1 The other thing we're going to talk about with cameras is there's also an opportunity for the drivers to put an in-car camera for these broadcasts. If you're a driver and would like to find out how we can do that, again, send an email to me or catch me here at the track, and I'll walk you through the process. But that's a good opportunity to get some information out there for your sponsors and or just to say thank you to your wife for letting you, or your husband for letting you come out here and spend the money to do this.
Well, plenty of racers already actually do. I mean, carry cameras in their cars. They kind of go around right there and get a good view of the track for their own analysis, and you'll see them on YouTube as well. Plenty of good, exciting videos of people tackling Buttonwillow and whatever else. So worth noting out there. Obviously, check out our YouTube channel, The Racing Network, there, if you're interested in seeing some interesting car racing as well.
And if you are watching, please subscribe. Click that subscribe button. Click the like button. And click the bell button, because that'll give you an alert every time we just put up a live broadcast.
Not laughing at you. I've been listening to the channel here, and they're giving us the numbers of the cars as math problems right now. It's a little terrifying, right? We've been told that the lead car number is the square root of 81, which is technically true there. A little bit of mental gymnastics, but we are halfway through the race, sitting about 13 minutes in, 7 laps completed. So we will give you the full grid rundown here at this halfway mark, just so you know where everybody is. In first place is number 9, Bob Blizzard there in the GTX class. And then in second place, it's number 88, Rob Kelly in the GT2.
And your full field rundown brought to you by the Racing Wire Podcast Network. All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot, Tristan. This is your second or third weekend out here with us.
Yes.
What's bringing you out? I mean, are you enjoying your time out here? What's the attraction to come out here and have fun with us?
Cars go fast. It's exciting. It's fun to watch. I like some good car racing, to be honest. It's fun to come out here. Good atmosphere. A lot of fun people. I highly recommend it if you're watching the stream and you've never had the opportunity to come out here to Buttonwillow and watch. I would recommend you come give it a look. This level of racing is fun. The people are nice. There's food. There's a gift shop. There's everything you could possibly want out here. So no, it's a good time to be had. I like it. It's a fun track out in the Central Valley. It looks pretty scenic. It's a beautiful day. What more could you want on a Sunday than some fast cars going vroom with some lovely mountains in the background?
And I thought it was the companionship.
Oh, the companionship is wonderful. I did say the people were wonderful. Credit where credit is due.
I guess there's not the bromance I thought.
Oh, no. I'm sorry to hear that, bro.
No, but yeah, no, it's good to hear. And if you are interested in finding out more about what we do, you can go to calclub.com. And that is all of the information to come out here. And I bet you didn't know when you first came out here that if you wanted to, you could take your street car on the racetrack.
I didn't know that, actually. I've learned that now, and I've seen it done, and it does look like a pretty fun time right there to grasp a whiff, a touch of the racing life out here.
Yeah, we call it track event. We have them at a lot of our race weekends. You can find out about the schedule on the Cal Club page as well. And you plunk down some money, and it's not as much as a race entry, but maybe a little more than a trip to In-N-Out. And you have to have a helmet, and they check your car to see that it's safe. And but other than that, and there's a couple of cars that might not want out there, like a minivan. But if you've got a regular standard-ish street car, it can be something slow like my Honda Fit or a Lamborghini if you've got one of those hanging around in the garage collecting dust. Come on up here, and you get a couple of sessions every day, and we have a good time. And it's an opportunity for a lot of folks to kind of see if they like this a little bit, and eventually they can upgrade to being a race car driver.
Yeah.
Or there's a lot of people I know who just like doing the track days and never really want to bump up to that level.
Yeah.
So.
Come on out and get your car that's collecting dust passively and get it to a point where it can collect dust actively. out here on the Buttonwillow track, and it looks fun. I was so sorely tempted watching the track event cars go around today, so I'm gonna have to do that one of these days, to be honest. I mean, it is a beautiful racetrack, Buttonwillow. We've talked about the different configurations and how much fun you can have out here, and it is a lovely track. So it's a lot of fun to race, and I'm looking forward to coming out here more just to see some of these other combos unleashed right there. Just a note here on our racers so far here. Bob Blizzard just came around again. A slower lap, hasn't quite been able to equal his fastest lap time just yet. He was about 153.625 right there on the last lap. Robert Kelly checked in at about 202.647 on his last lap as well. So, they're taking their time about it, but they're certainly having a good time, and they're certainly both running very clean. There's not been any on and off. There's not been any spins. Just a good, solid, straightforward race from the two of them.
For those of you who might be interested in coming out for a track event, the next one we're going to have is September 3rd and 4th out here. And where do you think I found that information?
Probably on a website.
On the Cal Club website.
There you go.
Like I've been saying. This has been a nice opportunity with a little fewer cars on the racetrack to basically do a 20-minute commercial for KCal.
Yeah.
Cal Club.
Cal Club.
I keep saying that. I used to work at KCal, so if anybody ever hears me say KCal instead of Cal Club, that's the problem. I apologize. I did it yesterday. I just did it again. Oh, boy.
Well, there's one more race on the day as well. We'll just remind everyone of that. Coming up at just after this will be that Group 1 race. Definitely worth sticking around for. We know that this two-car race is a little bit less pounding than some of the other ones. Still very interesting to watch them sort of chase themselves out here in terms of time. But that next group coming up of 14 cars, that's going to be a fun one, and a good way to end the weekend here as well, and a good way to end the racing here for the summer as well. Looks like Robert Kelly just came across the line right there, and actually Bob Blizzard getting into a position where he actually might lap Mr. Kelly out here. They're actually getting relatively close to one another. I think Bob Blizzard's overall goal might be to go for that lap as they sort of disappear down there into that turn that we need the camera on. We'll see them hopefully come up the I-5 straight here leading into the Grapevine in just a second, and we'll see if Bob Blizzard has managed to get that pass in just yet. And no, it doesn't look like they have, though the gap is certainly closing right there. And as they come up to the sort of pinnacle of the Grapevine and down into that dogleg area, the back straight, I think we'll be seeing that in relatively short order. You might even get it, actually, Brian, as they come down the drag strip.
Absolutely. We will be able to see that.
There it is.
There goes the pass. When you're passing lap traffic, it's nice to have a nice little straightaway to do it on and do it nice and clean without any issues. And then, of course, we see a little puff of dust when they go through Grapevine with the one wheel off. We'll see them coming into our view here on our drag strip camera here in just a half a second.
I'll tell you why that number 9 car is nippy, though. The speed they put on right there, that was good. He really likes that back straight, does Bob Blizzard. He's happy to let her loose going down through there. Nice stuff.
There was Bob Blizzard going through the drag strip with Robert Kelly, not far behind, but that gap will grow again. How much time we got left in this one?
We are sitting about 20 minutes, 10 laps completed between the two of them, so we are getting close to the end of the race here. I'm expecting the call to come across the network here for that white flag sooner rather than later. As we see Bob Blizzard cross right there, another good blistering track time as well. Yes. Looks like things may be getting a little bit rougher out there for Robert Kelly. He's sitting about 2 minutes, 8 seconds on that last lap. Of course, I think there was a little bit of a slowdown to let Bob Blizzard by. There's a little bit of chatter now over the network here. That does look like number 9, so Bob Blizzard, who has been running some impressive times here, really putting the car through its paces, might be suffering from a little bit of tire trouble or engine trouble. Not sure exactly which. I mean, fortunately, the race is almost over here for the number 9 car, so he should be able to finish it out, but it is an interesting note. Might explain some of the slight slowdown that we've seen on the last couple of laps here. Not quite able to put up that same blistering pace of that 147 we saw earlier in the race.
Well, and the good news for both these cars is they've gone more past half distance, so they could pull into the pits now and be considered a finisher.
True.
So that's the nice thing with having the field the way it is. If they want to say uncle and call it a day, they can do that.
Does appear that our next time by will be the last lap, and white flag is being pulled out of its sheath down there. So we will be seeing that soon. So this race is reaching its conclusion right there. The leader remaining, Bob Blizzard in that number 9 car, with Robert Kelly slowing down just a little bit as well. Ooh. Looks like number 9 had a big off and on up by turn number 12. Doesn't appear to have affected him too much. You still saw him come around right there, but he did hit the dirt quite a bit. You can see the lingering dust cloud, the reminder of going off right there, comes sailing around. So might be time for Bob Blizzard to finish this race up. He's lucky the white flag's coming out, because I think perhaps those tires are giving him a little bit of trouble there, Brian.
Well, and unlike other racetracks, you can't really get away with much here, because when you put a wheel off, there's always some dust, and so evidence is usually fairly conclusive in that situation. So that is the joy and the bane of many drivers' existences here, is that you can't really get away with a whole lot.
Makes our job a lot easier.
It does. It does. I can look out around the track and say, I don't know who, I don't know what, but I do know where.
Somebody hit dust.
That's right. That's right. And the white flag is now out. There is your car coming across the line to take it. Just caught a glimpse. That's Bob Blizzard getting ready to finish his final race lap of the weekend here.
It was interesting there, Brian, as he came down over the start line, and this might just be my general ignorance, but there was definitely some sparking underneath the car that I hadn't noticed before.
Well, it's possible that when he went off, he, had some stuff, body work or something that came loose and is dragging along the tarmac. So that is not uncommon when you get off the racetrack, that you're trying to get through that and do their thing. So
hopefully nothing too dramatic there
probably
for Bob Blizzard, but certainly a little bit of fire in the belly, quite literally, at the looks of it. As the number 88 car coming across the line right there. Slower time as well from Robert Kelly. So, getting towards the end of the race here, about 2 minutes 12. That was, I think, Bob Blizzard's slowest lap, by the way, right there. 1 minute 56 seconds overall. So a far cry from that 1 minute 47. That was his best lap, but still, a 1 minute 47, better than his 1 minute 48 yesterday. So he's had a good race overall. Can, I think, happily bring this one in. The checkered flag is out down there in the tower, so they'll be ready to give it a wave as Bob Blizzard comes sailing around the next time.
There you go. You just saw him go through the drag strip area all by himself. Got about 5 corners left before he gets to the checkered flag to take his second win of the weekend here at Buttonwillow Raceway Park.
Well, there goes the checkered flag. It's being waved most vigorously down there on the finish line. And here comes Bob Blizzard across the line there, finishing in first place.
And, of course, your crack director missed the finish of the race on the stream, thinking I was going to one camera when I was going to another. I only have 2. How can I mess that up?
Well, we'll get the second finish here in a minute. Technically, first finish in the GT2 class.
I am foreshadowing the comments on the stream from our viewers. That's good stuff.
The checkered flag is out and ready to go. Robert Kelly, the last one to finish here of these two, should be coming across the line in just a second. And then we'll have a brief pause before we start up on our Group 1 overall race. And we await Robert Kelly's arrival here at the finish line. There's the checkered flag waved. And there is that Robert Kelly car somewhere. I don't know. I lost track of him somewhere. There he is. Over the line he goes. And that will be the end of the race.
I don't think we have to wait much to do a full field run.
I do not think we do, no.
Well, let's do it.
All right, in first place here amongst Group 2, it is the number 9 car of Bob Blizzard from Poway, California. And in second place, overall, the number 88 car from Robert Kelly, there from Huntington Beach, California, closing out this Group 2 race.
All right, that's going to do it for our Group 2 race here on Sunday at Buttonwillow Raceway Park. He is Tristan Parker. I'm Brian Belansky. This is the Racing Wire Podcast Network and the Racing Network on YouTube. One race to go here this weekend at Buttonwillow Raceway Park. It's the Cal Club SCCA Divisional races here on Sunday, the 5th of June, 2022. Brian Belansky here with you. along with Tristan Parker. And we're getting ready for our final race of the day. This is our Spec Racer 4, our Spec Miatas, our IT cars, our production cars, B-Spec. Basically our small bore closed wheel class. And a good number of cars here for this class this weekend. They've started their pace laps. So, Tristan, why don't you tell us our running order at the start here?
Sure thing. Well, let's run through that. Starting in the number 14 position, it's Gary Murph from Bellflower, California. In front of them, in number 13, Gabriel Estrada from Ventura, California. Jack McEachern there from Santa Monica, California. And then David Mitchell from Yucaipa, California. Carl Yonk in 10th overall from Cardiff by the Sea. Then Jorge Diaz from Chandler, Arizona. In the 8th spot, Gabe Estrada Jr. from Vista, California. And then Bill Nelson from Walnut, California. In 6th, John Stott from Norco, California. And then Philip Clark from Oceanside, California. In 4th, Giorgio Perangielli here from Los Angeles, California. And then Evan Jacobs holding that 3rd place slot overall from Encino, California. Then Morgan Trotter from Temecula, California. And topping it all off, the leader of the STL group in pole position, Taz Harvey from Danville, California.
There you go. Your leaders and your pace car are heading now out of Phil Hill. Down the drag strip, we can see them. Not quite lined up yet, but there's a little bit of time for that. The lights are out on the pace car, which means it will enter the pit lane, and then your first group will come onto the front straight and will potentially take the green flag here. Split start again in this race. The Miatas are in the back, I guess.
Correct.
So the first group we're going to get is everybody but the Miatas. And then the second group will be all of our Miatas. So
Everybody but the Miatas. Now, the Miatas, they're going to be it's going to be an interesting competition between them because they were pretty close yesterday. Giorgio Pierangeli and Evan Jacobs were kind of at the top. John Stott was in that mix as well for a while, so a lot to pay attention to among them, and I'm actually quite interested to see if it works out today like it did yesterday. Taz Harvey put up a really good race yesterday as well, and Morgan Trotter was in a solid position too, so something to watch out for there among the STLs as the green flag comes out here and the race gets underway. Side by side, actually, coming in through that initial start, it was Taz Harvey right alongside that number 61 car, Morgan Trotter, as they go down through Sunrise. So already a little bit of a fight brewing there at the front side, 2x2 across. Now we'll get a look at our second group. Those Spec Miatas we were talking about in just a second should be coming near the start line at any moment now. And yeah, sure enough, here comes the green flag for the Spec Miata group, and they are side by side as well. The 35 and the 80 there of Giorgio Pierangeli and Evan Jacobs, respectively, dueling it out across the line.
All right, we'll see if this split-started group is far enough apart or close enough together. We're able to see them at both go through both sections of our cameras here at the same time. That was the difficulty in the first split start, is that one was at one camera at the exact same time that the other group was at the other camera, and I'm like, which one should we show you?
Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge, unfortunately, when that time comes in, because interesting things can happen in either group. So really something to keep an eye on. Worth noting that lead group is a little bit more spaced out right there. Taz Harvey does look to have pretty good spacing with Morgan Trotter following him up. The Spec Miatas here, as they come down off the grapevine into that dog leg, they are much tighter as a group, pretty much playing together almost as a pack. The top five Spec Miatas all really close to one another right there as they come sailing along, heading over towards Riverside, and some dust kicked over there on Riverside, I think, from a car. Might be just your standard Central Valley Dust Devil, though, blowing their way through. Not exactly clear.
It is my experience that the Central Valley Dust Devils at Buttonwillow are started by a race car.
You say that, but yesterday we had a wild one out there, Brian. It just did its own thing. Went over onto the racetrack for a little bit even. There comes the number 8 car, the number 61 car across. There's that 33 car, Philip Clark, coming down across the line as well. Carl Yonk will be following along not too long after by the looks of it. And there's the number 98 of Gary Murph we see, which leaves our Spec Miata group on the next to come across the finish line. We should be seeing them soon.
Here they come down the main straight for the first time, or at the end of the first lap anyway. They will take their chance here as they come across. All looking nice and strung out. Not a whole lot of argy-bargy going on at this point in time. We'll have to wait and see if they do come together and give us one of those classic Spec Miata trains that we like to see as these cars try to work together. The Spec Miata class, for those who aren't familiar, is it's a class based all on Miatas, and the way the rules are written, they're written to a spec. So depending on what year and what configuration you have, the rules are put together so that the cars are as close as to equal as possible, and makes for some really close racing, and puts the finishing position really at the hands of the driver, assuming that the car is pretty well sorted out.
Yeah, the only kind of tight match so far that we see actually in there is between John Stott and Bill Nelson. And actually, as we watch them come down through the dogleg right here, kind of at the nadir of that dogleg, it does look like John Stott managed to slip around the outside edge of Bill Nelson, or the inside edge of Bill Nelson. And then so going into the Riverside turn, did do a pass right there. But other than that, the Spec Miatas maintaining a relatively set grouping right there, and the same could be said of our higher level as well. The STLs, Taz Harvey blazing ahead, Morgan Trotter a good 2 seconds behind Taz Harvey right there.
Just saw the Spec Miata group come through after Phil Hill down the drag strip, and still pretty much a train, not quite nose to tail like we normally see, but they are coming through without any issues up to this point.
Well, the first group is relatively strung out now here as well, and passing might be occurring soon. I do see a blue flag coming out right here as the Spec Miatas come by. There's that number 35 car there in the lead. Gary Murph has managed to cement themselves in. John Stott indeed confirming the pass. And actually Jorge Diaz as well got one over on Bill Nelson right there. So a little bit of shakeup among the Spec Miatas. Not huge changes, but some shakeup indeed. And then it should be noted that Jack McEachern not racing here today. Did not start the race despite him being named on the grid. Doesn't look like he's put out any laps.
82 degrees right now at Buttonwillow on a beautiful sunny June day. If you're wondering why we're racing so early today, if you look down where the high temperature is supposed to be, it's going to get up to 91 degrees. So it gives us a chance to get in and get out before the heat of the day here. Also, we want to take a quick look at the track map that we're using today, one of the many configurations we can do here at Buttonwillow. As you can see, we are not using the Star Mazda or the A-section curve today, I believe. Now you've got me questioning myself. You asked that question, Tristan. But anyway, I can tell you, though, that we are not using Star Mazda and we are not using the bus stop. So that first little area down by the off-ramp is still in question. But that's what we're doing today out here. Our last race of the weekend here, and it has been a good one.
Yes, indeed, it has been a good one, and hopefully we will be long get on and out of town before that 91 degrees kicks in. That's my sincere hope, at least. It's not too hot up here in the control tower at the moment, but doubtless it would get hotter if we laid it until later in the day. Saw Taz Harvey coming across the line right there, Morgan Trotter, Philip Clark, and then Carl Yonk in the blue and yellow. Waiting to see the Spec Miatas come round. Evan Jacobs has been slowly but surely working his way forward quite enthusiastically amongst the Spec Miatas. Actually put up a really good time on the last lap, 2 minutes 5 seconds. He's just come across the line again, and again another 2 minute 5 second lap, and his best lap of the day, 2:05.408. Giorgio Perangielli chasing that about a second back. John Stott right behind Giorgio Perangielli, so about a second in between the two of all of them, and then Jorge Diaz kind of bringing up the rear of that group. In fact, it's actually really close. The biggest difference here among the main pack of the Spec Miatas is about 2 minutes, or 2 seconds, I'm sorry, give or take, between the leader, who is that Evan Jacobs car, and then at the back of that little pack there, Gabe Estrada Jr. So tight indeed amongst the Spec Miata group.
Also want to give everyone an opportunity. If you're interested, we also need a ton of volunteer workers that come out here to enjoy the races. It is the best seat in the house that doesn't have a steering wheel. If you want to come out here, and there are lots of different opportunities, some of which are standing at the corners and holding the flags and giving information to the drivers and radioing back to race control to tell us what's going on. There's also opportunities in our technical inspection area. If you like to get under the hood of a car, you get a chance to do some of that over there. We've got grid workers who line up the cars before the races and make sure the drivers have their seatbelts on and their gloves and all the other fun stuff they need to wear to stay safe. Registration. You could become an announcer with the announce booth. You could do that if you wanted to. All of that information on how to do that is available both on the calclub.com. You can also check out the Cal Club Facebook page. Lots of good information there as well. So if you want to come out and have a good time, we don't charge you to do it, but you do get a chance to get up close to the cars.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch. It's good, exciting to be here. All the cars lined up on the grid with their engines roaring. It's a cool place to be. It's well worth it, and it's fun to watch these races. Like you said, best seat in the house. Number 35 there, Evan Jacobs coming across the line. Giorgio Pierangeli not far behind. That group is starting to widen out just a little bit between the top two, but John Stott, Jorge Diaz maintaining relatively close, and it looks like actually Gabe Estrada Jr. really putting the chase here on Bill Nelson. Might go for the pass coming down into Sunrise. Indeed, slips to the inside of that turn, and then just as easily slips around Bill Nelson. So good pass there by Gabe Estrada Jr. among the Spec Miatas to push himself up yet another position in that grouping. Just to clarify, I mean, when we say it's pretty tight here among some of these Spec Miatas, I should point out John Stott had a 206.714. Jorge Diaz, who was right behind him, had a 206.736. So real close there between the two of them. And that battle looks to be continuing, actually, as they come around. And Bill Nelson, by the way, putting on a little bit of speed coming down here into the dogleg, trying to catch up with Gabe Estrada Jr. After that Sunrise pass. So some fights lower down in the Spec Miata order, but Evan Jacobs, presuming he's able to run a clean race, does seem to have rather firmly put himself in the lead there in that group.
This is our final race of the day, so we, again, thank all the workers out here, and we appreciate you getting out and standing in the sun for us so that drivers can go and do what they do. Could not do this without all of you, so thanks a lot to all of them. Also want to let everybody know that you want to help out with the stream, and there are some sponsorship opportunities. If you want to find out about that, send me an email, raceannouncerbrian with an I @gmail.com.
There comes Evan Jacobs around again. Giorgio Pierangeli trying to make up that gap just a little bit and is slowly creeping up on the race leader. Meanwhile, speaking of gaps, John Stott opens it up a bit between Jorge Diaz. They might have been close the last time they came around. They were not so close that time. And Bill Nelson still not able to get the better of Gabe Estrada Jr. there, who has put on some speed, actually, as they were coming across the finish line. 11 minutes into the race, 5 laps complete here among these cars, and they're chugging along. Relatively clean race here as well. Not a lot of incidents of note, so that's good as well.
And speaking of incidents, you'll see the green bar on the left side of your screen if you're watching the stream. That indicates that we are under a green flag condition here. If that turns yellow, yep, that means we're under a yellow flag condition. So a little bit of inside baseball and how the stream's going to work. And like I said earlier in the broadcast, in the live stream, that this is our first test weekend. We've got a couple of test weekends coming up before we really launch in earnest in January. So every once in a while, a little hiccup here. Today is definitely streaming better than yesterday, so that's a good thing. But we're getting it all together so we can get ready for a big January launch.
Taz Harvey came around not too long ago. A 2-minute .893 lap right there from the overall leader of this race. I think I saw him powering up through the grapevine not too long ago, or through the dog leg, one or the other. Let's go ahead and I think give a full rundown here. I think we're about halfway into the race. So let's work through our grid here. 13 cars out there on the track. Starting in first, it's Taz Harvey in the number 8 car. Then Morgan Trotter, Philip Clark, Carl Yonk, Evan Jacobs leading the Spec Miata formation, and that's where we're getting into right now. Giorgio Pierangeli, John Stott, Jorge Diaz, Gabe Estrada Jr., Bill Nelson, David Mitchell, Gary Murph, and Gabriel Estrada there to close it out. And that is your formation right now on the grid.
That is your full field rundown, brought to you by the Racing Wire Podcast Network. All right, we are just tooling around here on a Sunday afternoon. Kind of feels like by the time we get to the last race of the weekend, a lot of these guys and gals out here are just like, it's hot, let's go home. So they're just trying to get through their laps and get to the finish line here. And that's the other thing is for the folks here at Cal Club, we take the summer off because it is just too dang hot to race out here throughout the heat of the summer. And we've all been talking this weekend about how we got really lucky with the weather not being too hot. And I cautioned everyone. I said, yeah, we're going to pay for this in September.
Oh, no. I certainly hope not.
It'll be 110 here in September. No, I hope not.
Oof.
But yeah, so no, we've had really hot times out here in June, and that's why we don't race through the summer. So this is kind of our summer recess coming up here. So about 20 minutes left, 10 minutes left in our first half of our racing season. The second half of the Cal Club season is going to start in September on the 3rd and 4th here at Buttonwillow. Our last 3 races actually all at Buttonwillow. There is another. There's another race then on October 29th and 30th. That's always fun. We always do something Halloween related at that race. And then our final race of the year out here is an Enduro, an SCCA Enduro, which means it'll be longer than our normal sprint races, probably 3 or 4 hours, maybe 6. I don't remember yet, or I'm not sure it's actually been selected the time. But that's going to be on November 19th and 20th. So 3 races left this year, but that all comes after our summer break as we get things going here again in September.
It does look like Carl Yonk got caught up a little bit there in the Flotsam and Jetsam. And for a moment, Giorgio Pierangeli passing that STL car as they came across the line here just a second ago. And it might be getting towards the end of the day, but Giorgio Pierangeli still holding on pretty tight to the backside of Evan Jacobs. Not a lot between the two of them. And then actually just further down the list, this grouping here of John Stott, Jorge Diaz, and Gabe Estrada, their spacing is relatively consistent across all 3 of them. But they are all quite close, I think, in terms of genuine distance here in these Spec Miatas. Obviously, running out of time here, Brian, like you were saying, the race, it's ticking down. So if you're going to start making moves, if the Spec Miata group wants to shift up their order at all, they're going to need to start doing it sooner, I think, rather than later.
Looking at the stream, Christina Cogniacci, big Jorge Diaz fan. Lots of love there for Jorge Diaz on the stream. Don't hesitate to throw out who you're rooting for. I'm happy to make the mention and let the drivers out there know that that the fans are watching. So thank you, Christina, for tuning in. Not only did we got emojis too, a checkered flag emoji. So foreshadowing,
Good
maybe
stuff. Yeah.
foreshadowing. That's good stuff.
Jorge Diaz actually in a position where he could genuinely catch John Stott if they kind of put the fire on. I mean, he's up 4 places here actually from his starting position, so it's been a very good race for Jorge Diaz, checkered flag or no. Evan Jacobs there has opened up the gap between him and Giorgio Perangielli just a little bit, so that threat not as dominant as it was. And here comes both John Stott and Jorge Diaz coming across the line. The gap between them there about 0.2027 of a second, 0.27 a second. Not a lot, is I think the best way for me to phrase that right there, Brian. Not a lot between the two of them. But again, time is the great enemy here for these guys, and they seem to be relatively comfortable with the positions that they're in. But you got to look at Jorge Diaz, moved up 4 slots. He's gonna probably try and go for one more. John Stott's moved up 2 to his credit, so they've definitely been putting in the work, the both of them.
If you are enjoying the stream, like and subscribe and hit that bell button so that you can get an alert every time we decide to do a broadcast here. It's good to have some fun with that. And really appreciate everybody who is watching from home. Also appreciate everybody out here doing this so we can have some fun on the live stream as well.
Yeah, it's been a fun weekend of racing here at Buttonwillow. A good way to end the sort of start first half here of Cal Club. It's been a good series of races. Nothing too dramatic today, which I think is actually pretty good compared to yesterday. We had a couple of non-starts, did not finish. Today's been a lot more clean across the board from these cars. Hopefully not jinxing it by saying that. But it looks at least a little bit more clean. Taz Harvey, by the way, we haven't mentioned him very much, so we will mention him again. Still very much solidly holding on to the lead there. Morgan Trotter doing a good job as well. The two of them running into some traffic now at the back end of the Spec Miatas and slowly making their way through them one by one. Philip Clark, he's been running pretty much a race of his own. The closest car to him is Evan Jacobs, and that's the leader of the Spec Miatas, who actually crosses the line right here. Giorgio Pierangeli, just on the tail end of here, but not quite able to make up that difference. Now, a little bit tighter grouping of the Spec Miatas here. That number 93 car of Jorge Diaz still on the chase, just past Carl Yonk in that STL 83 car. So John Stott, yeah, he's got something to watch out for here at the tail end of the race.
Looks like we'll probably have about 3 laps to go, maybe 2. That's my unofficial count. There are officials to do that counting for me, but just doing the math in my head, maybe 3 or 2 to go here. So coming to the closing laps here, and this is when, if you're close enough to make a move, you're really making those calculations in your head. How do you get to where I need to go? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And then also the question is, do I go on the last lap? Do I go with 2 to go? And that's why we enjoy sitting up here and watching to see how it all plays out.
And keep in mind, Jorge Diaz and John Stott, the two cars that we've been talking about the most right here, that's a battle for podium position. That's 3rd place in the group of the Spec Miatas. So there's motivation there, definitely for John Stott to hold on to it, and definitely for Jorge Diaz to take it. So we'll see if that's going to develop here in just a second. That's, I think, the closest we have. Giorgio Pierangeli has been holding on to the backside of Evan Jacobs, but the gap is just a little too big, I think, for him to make any significant moves. Though, like you said, Brian, I mean, if you're going to make it, this is getting close to the time here, so something might still develop between those two, but those are definitely the groupings to watch right there. And if you're watching from the stands or you're watching on the stream, you just wanted to know who was who, by the way. Evan Jacobs is gray, number 35 car. Giorgio Prangielli, I think, is a silver car, indeed, with the number 80 on the side. We just saw them come across the finish line right there. That's how I was able to confirm, thankfully, between the two of them. And then John Stott is in a white car with a blue stripe, I believe, number 45. And then Jorge Diaz is in a red car, number 93 right there. We just saw them come across the finish line as well. Jorge Diaz tried to creep up a little bit on the sunrise turn, but John Stott maintaining positioning relatively well right there. Did not seem particularly flustered. And we'll keep an eye on the front line here to see if anything changes as they come across the grapevine.
You definitely want to keep an eye on the fluster factor out here.
Oh, true, true.
Absolutely. Just getting word from race control. Next time by will be the white flag lap, and we'll be getting ready for our final lap of the weekend.
Well, now it looks like that lead group, Evan Jacobs, Giorgio Prangielli, are hitting a little bit of Spec Miata traffic as well. They just passed up another car right there on the dog leg, so that's something to keep a note of. Same thing just happened here with Stott and Diaz. Diaz trying to close that gap, but I just don't think he's really going to be able to do it with the time they have left. A little interesting note here, actually, as we come up to our last lap. The race leader, Taz Harvey, put a little bit too much gas into it by the sounds of it. Got a little off and on right there, but nothing too dramatic. Still worth noting, even the fastest among us, Brian, are not necessarily perfect all the time.
Sounds a little like a metaphor for life,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole tortoise and the hare thing, right? Yeah, no. Never perfect.
There you go. There you go. All right, we're just waiting for Taz Harvey to come around through sunset for the second to last time of the weekend. When that happens, our starter will wave that white flag to indicate one to go.
Sounds like Giorgio Prangielli had a little hiccup there as well. Was off and on. Here comes the bulk of the Spec Miatas across the line. And Giorgio Prangielli actually has suffered mightily for that off and on. As the white flag does come out here for Taz Harvey. But speaking back to what I was talking about, Giorgio Prangielli has actually dropped out of podium position here in the Spec Miata group with that off and on. So John Stott and Jorge Diaz, who were kind of racing one another at the back of the Spec Miata group for that third place position, no longer much of a contest. If they can just stave off Giorgio Prangielli, they will both finish on the podium.
All right, less than a minute and a half left to go in this race. Taz Harvey just trying to keep it together for this final lap. Come across the finish line one final time with a checkered flag in hand, and that'll be his second race win of the weekend if that happens.
Oh, now this is interesting. Jorge Diaz going to have to fend off Giorgio Prangielli, actually, as they come in through Riverside. It really does look like Giorgio is trying to give him a run for his money. You're probably going to see this coming down the drag, slowly closing in on him. Probably fortunate there's not more laps, actually, in this race, or he might have been able to pass him, but he looks like he'll be able to hold him off.
And they'll be coming into our view right now. They just came down off of Phil Hill, heading down the drag strip. You'll see the first place car there, and there they are, all three of them nice and close together. Not probably close enough to have to worry too much about it, but that is the way it looks right now. Any minute we will see Taz Harvey come onto the front straight, and when that happens, the starter will start waving that checkered flag. That'll be happening any second. And here it comes. And the checkered flag is out for Taz Harvey, your race winner of our third and final race of the day. Congratulations to him. Let's see how the Spec Miata field comes across the line. That's what we're going to wait for next.
Indeed it is. We saw Morgan Trotter Cross there in second as well. Not far, actually, behind Taz Harvey when all things were said and done. But turning our attention now back to those Spec Miatas where things were getting a little close there. You mentioned Giorgio Pierangeli went off the track, came back on, and was fighting rather fiercely to try and get up the backside of Jorge Diaz. And I think I see them coming up into the grapevine. It looks like Jorge Diaz has managed to put enough distance between the two of them that I don't think Giorgio is going to be able to catch him. Coming down into the straight now of the dog leg. You see that number 45 car of John Stott in the lead right there, and sure enough, a good burst of speed there from Jorge Diaz really put the distance between him and Giorgio. They were much closer on that last lap, but not to be, coming down through Riverside, managing to maintain that position. So all of that sort of chase there that we saw between Jorge Diaz and John Stott comes to naught. I mean, not. They managed to get across and get their podium position. They just didn't have to work as hard for it as they thought they were going to have to.
All right, here they come down Phil Hill and towards the drag strip. Same order, same gap, pretty much the same. So it looks like that's going to be our finishing order, but there's still about 5 corners to negotiate, and anything can happen, and we've seen it happen on the last lap many times. So keeping it up here as they come to the finish line. Just a few more corners.
Well, there's Evan Jacobs coming across, so he will firmly place himself at the top of the Spec Miata group. The rest of the Spec Miatas, just as Brian said, got a few more corners to clear, but here they come.
And that's how they're going to finish, just as Tristan predicted. And there you go. All right, I believe that's pretty much all of our cars. Let's do our full field rundown for the final time of the weekend. Tristan, take it away.
For sure. Well, starting at our overall leader, Taz Harvey, number 8 there, the top of the STL category. Morgan Trotter in second place there in the number 61 car. Philip Clark coming in third. Then Evan Jacobs, the leader of the Spec Miatas. And that's the group we'll go through here for a second. John Stott, second place in the Spec Miata group. Jorge Diaz there, who moved up 6 places overall in that race. So an impressive performance from him today. Right below him is Giorgio Pierangeli. Then Gabe Estrada Jr., Carl Yonk, David Mitchell, Bill Nelson, Gary Murph, and then finally rounding it out, Gabriel Estrada.
Evan Jacobs with some fan club on the chat. Aiden Whips, giving him a big shout out. He is not Aiden, but Evan was your Spec Miata winner. So want to thank everybody for watching on our stream and for listening on the podcast when you listen to it. We really appreciate that. Also want to thank all of the folks who got on the chat and interact with us. We love that as well. If you enjoyed this, subscribe and like. Hit that big bell button so you can see the next one. That is going to do it from Buttonwillow Raceway Park, California Sports Car Club SCCA Divisional Races. For Tristan Parker, I'm Brian Belansky. That's going to do it from here. You're listening to the Racing Wire Podcast Network and the Racing Network on YouTube.